In 1948, the American pest control industry did not exist in any meaningful form. If a farmhouse had roaches, the woman who ran that kitchen handled it herself. With what she had. For almost nothing. And it worked. By 2024, Americans spend $4.5 billion a year on cockroach control. Sprays, gels, bombs, traps, monthly service contracts. $4.5 billion on a problem that a $2 box of boric acid powder solved completely for 3 generations of American farmhouse families before anyone thought to sell them a can of something instead. Number 3 on this list will surprise you. It has been sitting on the shelf at your hardware store for 120 years and costs less than a cup of coffee. Number 7 is the placement mistake that makes every cockroach treatment fail, whether you are using the $2 method or the $40 spray. And the final method on this list is the one pest control companies most want you to never find, because if you find it, they lose a customer forever. Subscribe before we start. This one is going to change how you think about who is actually solving this problem in your house. Here's how the Amish have handled cockroaches for 200 years, for $2, and why it works better than anything the pest control industry sells. Number 1. Boric acid powder. A fine white powder, faintly crystalline, odorless, with no warning label beyond keep away from small children and pets in concentrated quantities. The same compound used in eye wash solutions. The same compound found naturally in seawater and soil. Sold in hardware stores, farm supply stores, and pharmacies in a cardboard box for between $1 and $2.50, depending on where you live. Boric acid has been killing cockroaches since 1948, when Harry Katz, a researcher at the University of Florida, formally documented its effectiveness. But Pennsylvania Dutch farmhouse women were dusting it along baseboards and behind stoves decades before Katz published a word. Here's what it does. A cockroach that walks through a thin dusting of boric acid picks up particles on its legs and body. The particles are electrostatically charged at the microscopic level and cling to the exoskeleton. When the roach grooms itself, which cockroaches do compulsively and constantly, it ingests the particles. Boric acid disrupts the cockroach's digestive system and nervous system simultaneously. The roach dies within 72 hours. It cannot develop resistance to this mechanism. You cannot breed a cockroach immune to having its nervous system disrupted by a mineral compound. The method has worked for 75 years and will work for 75 more. A single cardboard box holds enough boric acid powder to treat every crack, crevice, and void in a standard American kitchen 3 times over. It costs $2. Number 2, the application thickness. This is where every home treatment fails. Not because boric acid does not work, because the person applying it used too much. A common mistake. The logic feels correct. More powder means more killing. It does not. A heavy application of boric acid is visible to the cockroach. The roach detects the powder, avoids it, and routes around it. The same cockroach that will walk straight through an invisible dusting will not cross a visible pile. The powder must be applied so thinly that it is barely visible to the human eye. A ghost of white. Less than you think. Far less. The correct application leaves the surface looking almost untreated. A fine haze. Barely there. That application is invisible to the cockroach, completely effective, and lasts for months without reapplication as long as it stays dry. Every farmhouse woman who used this method knew it. The rule was always the same. If you can see it clearly, you put too much. Sweep some away and start again, where cockroaches actually live. Number 3, the void behind the wall. Most people treat the surfaces they can see, the floor beside the stove, the counter near the sink, the area around the trash can. Cockroaches do not live on surfaces you can see. They live in the voids you cannot. The gap behind the refrigerator motor housing. The void inside the wall where plumbing pipes pass through. The space between the back of kitchen cabinet boxes and the wall behind them. The gap under the kick plate at the bottom of every kitchen cabinet. The void inside the wall where the electric stove plugs in. The dark, narrow space between the dishwasher and the cabinet beside it. These are not random hiding spots. They are the specific conditions cockroaches require to survive. Warm, dark, humid, near a food source. Every one of those voids is within 10 feet of where you prepare food. Every one of them is invisible from the kitchen floor. Boric acid applied to the surface beside the stove does nothing if the cockroach population is living in the void behind the stove motor. The compound must reach where the insects actually are. Pull the stove out from the wall. Dust the wall void through the gap where the power cord enters. Push boric acid along the full base of the exposed wall before pushing the stove back. Do the same with the refrigerator. Do the same through the gap at the back of every cabinet box. Get the powder into the dark, warm places. The surfaces are where roaches travel. The voids are where they live. Number 4. Where they are coming from. A cockroach infestation that is treated without addressing entry points returns within weeks. The population inside the walls is eliminated. New population enters from outside through the same gaps the first generation used. The primary entry points in any house are consistent. The gap where plumbing pipes enter through the cabinet floor under the sink, the gap around the drain pipe under the bathroom vanity, the gap where the dishwasher water line enters through the cabinet wall, the gap along the bottom of the exterior door threshold, the gap where electric conduit enters through the exterior wall behind the stove. Each gap is a highway. A cockroach can compress its body to pass through a gap 1/16 of an inch wide. A gap the diameter of a pencil is a 2-lane road. Seal the gaps. Expanding foam for large gaps around pipe penetrations. Clear caulk for smaller gaps along cabinet floors. Door sweep along any exterior door threshold where light is visible from inside at floor level. Seal the highway first. Then treat the population inside. Farmhouse kitchens in Pennsylvania were built with tight construction out of necessity. Cold winters and hot summers meant gaps were caulked and sealed as a matter of annual maintenance, not pest control. The sealed house had fewer insects of every kind because the sealed house had fewer entry points. The caulk cost nothing. The result was permanent. Number 5. The boric acid bait. A dry dusting of boric acid eliminates cockroaches that walk through it. A boric acid bait draws cockroaches to the powder actively, rather than waiting for them to cross a treated surface by chance. The bait is simple. Mix 1 part boric acid with 1 part powdered sugar and a small amount of flour to bind them. The mixture should be a dry paste, crumbly rather than wet. Press small pea-sized amounts of the bait into cracks along the back of cabinet hinges, at the base of the toe kick, along the base of the cabinets, inside the void, under the stove, along the back baseboard of the space under the sink. The powdered sugar draws the cockroach to the bait actively. The cockroach feeds on the sugar flour mixture and ingests the boric acid along with it. The same disruption of digestive and nervous systems follows. But the bait method is faster than passive dusting alone because it brings the insects to the compound, rather than waiting for them to walk through a dusted surface. A batch of boric acid bait costs under 50 cents in materials. It remains effective for 6 to 8 weeks before the sugar oxidizes and loses its attractant properties. Reapply at that point. The bait and the dry dusting work together. Dust the voids and hidden surfaces. Bait the cracks and crevices. The combination covers both the passive contact method and the active ingestion method simultaneously. Number 6. The aerosol spray. Walk into any hardware store, and the pest control aisle will offer you a choice of spray cans at $12 to $22 each. The active ingredients are synthetic pyrethroids, permethrin, deltamethrin, bifenthrin. They kill cockroaches on contact by disrupting sodium ion channels in the insect's nervous system. They also evaporate. A pyrethroid spray applied to a baseboard surface has an effective residual life of 2 to 4 weeks under normal household conditions. Heat, cleaning products, foot traffic, and air movement all degrade the chemical faster. After 4 weeks, the treated surface provides no more protection than untreated surface. The spray kills what it hits. It does not reach the voids where cockroaches live. It creates a contact kill zone on surfaces that roaches cross briefly between harborage sites, while the harborage sites themselves remain untreated and fully populated. The industry recommendation is reapplication every 4 to 6 weeks. The business model is reapplication every 4 to 6 weeks. A household spending $20 on spray every 6 weeks spends $173 a year on a product that does not address the source of the infestation. A household spending $2 on boric acid twice a year and an afternoon sealing pipe penetrations spends $4 a year on a treatment that does. The $2 product outsells nothing. It has no marketing budget. It does not sponsor a television commercial. The $20 product has a national advertising campaign and shelf placement at eye level in every hardware store in America. This is not coincidence. Number 7. Treating the wrong surfaces. A cockroach spends the vast majority of its active hours in harborage. Inside the void, behind the wall, in the crack. It leaves harborage to feed and returns immediately. The path from harborage to food source and back is short and fast. Most home treatments concentrate product on the areas around the food source. The floor near the stove, the countertop edge near the sink, the area around the trash can. These are the feeding destinations, not the travel routes. The travel routes run along edges. Cockroaches are thigmotactic, meaning they prefer to keep their bodies in contact with surfaces on both sides simultaneously. They travel in corners, the junction of the floor and the baseboard, the junction of the back wall and the cabinet floor, the junction of the underside of the countertop and the back wall. These are not incidental paths. They are hardwired travel routes that every cockroach in the building uses every night. Boric acid dusted along these junctions, floor to wall, wall to cabinet, baseboard to kick plate, covers the actual travel routes rather than the open surfaces around the feeding destinations. The cockroach crosses the treated junction on the way to the food and on the way back. It picks up particles both times. It grooms, it ingests, it dies within 72 hours. Apply to the edges, not the open surfaces. Every farmhouse woman who used this method knew that insects travel in corners. The powder went into the corners. The center of the floor was irrelevant. Number 8. The physical backup. Food-grade diatomaceous earth applied alongside boric acid adds a second mechanism to the treatment. Where boric acid works through chemical ingestion, diatomaceous earth works physically. The microscopic sharp-edged silica particles abrade the cockroach's waxy cuticle, the waterproofing layer of its exoskeleton, causing it to lose moisture and desiccate. The two compounds work differently enough that cockroaches have no single avoidance strategy for both simultaneously. A roach that has learned, over several days, to route around a treated surface dusted with boric acid will walk through a diatomaceous earth application without recognizing it as a hazard. The physical kill mechanism is unrelated to the chemical one. Apply diatomaceous earth in the same locations as the boric acid dust. The voids, the junctions, the cracks. Use food-grade diatomaceous earth only. Pool-grade has been heat-treated into crystalline silica, which causes lung damage. The food-grade product is safe for use around food preparation surfaces and costs $2 to $4 for a 4-pound bag. The combined application of boric acid bait in the cracks, boric acid dust in the voids and junctions, and diatomaceous earth along the baseboard perimeter creates a layered treatment that addresses the insect through 3 separate mechanisms simultaneously. The pest control industry charges $150 per visit for the equivalent of a $5 materials investment and an hour of targeted application. Number 9. The habits that eliminate reinfestation. A cockroach infestation eliminated through boric acid treatment returns if the conditions that attracted the original population remain unchanged. Moisture is the primary attractant. Cockroaches require water more urgently than they require food. A leaking pipe under the sink, slow drain that leaves standing water, condensation on a cold pipe in a warm cabinet. Any consistent moisture source in a dark enclosed space creates habitat. Fix the leak. Insulate the condensing pipe. Ensure drains run clear. Remove the moisture, and you remove the primary reason cockroaches establish in that location. Cardboard is the secondary attractant. Corrugated cardboard is cockroach habitat. The fluted interior of a corrugated box provides exactly the dark, narrow, sheltered void cockroaches prefer for harborage and egg-laying. Groceries brought home in cardboard boxes carry cockroach eggs into the house. The boxes stored in the pantry or under the sink become breeding grounds. Eliminate cardboard storage. Decant dry goods into sealed glass or plastic containers. Remove boxes from the premises immediately. Grease accumulation behind the stove is the third attractor. The gap behind the stove, the underside of the range hood, the area around the burner, drip pans. Cooking grease accumulates in these areas invisibly and represents a significant food source. Clean behind the stove annually. Wipe the underside of the range hood monthly. Remove the burner drip pans and clean them when they accumulate residue. Pennsylvania Dutch farmhouse kitchens were kept with a specific daily order. Crumbs swept before bed. Dishes washed the same day. Grease wiped from surfaces after cooking. Nothing left out that could attract overnight. The kitchen that was clean at midnight was the kitchen that had no insects by morning. The treatment and the habit worked together. Neither was sufficient alone. Number 10. What this does not address. Boric acid is not a rapid knockdown treatment. A gel bait from the hardware store with a high concentration of hydromethylnon or fipronil can reduce a visible cockroach population within 48 hours. Boric acid works over 72 hours per insect and requires consistent contact by the population with treated surfaces over 1 to 2 weeks for full elimination. If a heavy infestation is producing visible cockroaches in daytime hours, which is a sign of a severely overcrowded population, the boric acid method will work, but it will take 10 to 14 days to show full results. In the meantime, the visible population will continue. Boric acid does not kill cockroach eggs directly. The egg capsule, called an ootheca, protects the eggs from direct chemical contact. The eggs hatch on their own schedule, typically 20 to 30 days after the ootheca is deposited. The hatched nymphs are immediately susceptible to boric acid contact and ingestion. A boric acid treatment that runs for 30 days eliminates both the existing population and the next generation as it hatches. A treatment that is removed after 1 week leaves the egg population intact. Leave the treatment in place for 30 days minimum. Reapply the bait every 6 to 8 weeks as the sugar oxidizes. Dust the voids once after the initial treatment and again at the 30-day mark. That is the complete protocol. The average American household with a cockroach problem spends between $200 and $500 per year on commercial treatments. Sprays replaced every 4 to 6 weeks. Occasional professional service visits at $150 each. Gel baits from the hardware store at $14 per package. All of it temporary. All of it treating the surface while the population in the void continues undisturbed. 1 box of boric acid, $2.11 at the hardware store. 1 box of food-grade diatomaceous earth, $2.49 at the farm supply store. One afternoon pulling out the stove, pulling out the refrigerator, dusting the voids, baiting the cracks, sealing the pipe penetrations under the sink. Total materials cost, $4.60. Total annual maintenance cost after the first treatment, $2 per year in replacement bait materials. Annual savings against commercial treatment, $196 to $496 per year. For a treatment that is more effective, because it reaches the harborage voids, not just the travel surfaces. More durable, because boric acid does not evaporate the way pyrethroid spray does. And permanent in effect, as long as the habits that prevent reinfestation are maintained. That is not a rounding error. It is 200 years of farmhouse knowledge that the pest control industry has spent considerable money and considerable effort convincing you was too simple to work. It was never too simple. It was always too cheap to market. 30 things have changed since the 1948 American farmhouse kitchen. The linoleum is different. The appliances are different. The cookware is different. The food is different. The cockroach is not different. The same insect. The same biology. The same vulnerabilities. Boric acid found in a $2 box at the hardware store disrupts the digestive and nervous system of the German cockroach in 2026 exactly as effectively as it did when Harry Katz documented it in 1948, and exactly as effectively as Pennsylvania Dutch farmhouse women observed it working 20 years before Katz wrote a word about it. Some things disappeared because better came along. The party line telephone, the icebox, the hand pump well. Better arrived and the old way went. Boric acid did not disappear because better arrived. It disappeared from the American household because an industry that could not profit from it arrived instead. The spray can came. The service contract came. The monthly treatment plan came. The $2 box stayed exactly where it always was, on the hardware store shelf, waiting for someone to remember it was there. If your grandmother or grandfather dealt with roaches in a farmhouse kitchen before the pest control industry existed, share in the comments what they used. The specific compound, the specific placement, the specific habit. Those memories are the record that the industry never managed to erase completely. We read every single one.